What's up, Gazbot here. Tuesday afternoon, the end of August. I am in my third week, the whatever I want to do week, and I've been working on the Horror 4, sort of, once again, dealing with the file issue. I worked on it a little bit yesterday. I just spent an hour working on it today, basically compiling the best version of each page I could find from what is on my computer, the backup from my old computer, and the backup we have in our house on a piece of hardware also. Still missing stuff. Some stuff, literally no image of it, not even a rough anything. Some stuff, I had done a preview book where I had rough pencils and stuff for San Diego Comic-Con, and I still have some of those left, which I'm not allowed to sell outside of Comic-Con, so I will end up doing them as like an add-on giveaway at certain tiers of a Kickstarter eventually. But I flipped through one and I have page 1 through 16 penciled, at least, because they're in there, but some of them, that's the only record I have of it. I can't even find a JPEG. I can't find anything. I looked on my iPad and there were some in there, and on the iCloud I found some in there, but I'm compiling a list and forgetting about how much I actually have done on each page. I only have, I think, 2 pages that I have a high-res PSD I could work from, and they're both pages that are penciled but not inked. Out of, I think there's 27 pages of this book, and I have evidence for almost every page that it is at least penciled, if not inked. And yet even the inked pages are low-res JPEGs. So I'm starting to get a little worried because to be honest, it's been a bit of a struggle to get myself to get back into this project because I want to finish it, and it's been a long time and life is crazy. And I kept telling myself, well, the pencils are done. Because to me, the pencils is the hardest part usually. And the pencils are done. I started the inks. I just got to finish through. I just got to get through it. You know, all the hard work is done. And if what I have currently is all I have, I had previously said I had about 75%. That's misleading. I have about 75% of the images, but some of them, again, are low res and unprintable. So I have the roughs or the pencils in some way, shape, or form for most of the pages. There's 1 or 2 that I literally have nothing for, or I have roughs that are so rough as to be, might as well start over. Like they're basically thumbnails. And some of the other stuff is like, okay, well, I can't use this low-res pencil page, but since I'm going to be inking it anyway, I'll just scale it up and do my best to ink over the low-res. And then some of the inked stuff, I guess I re-ink over my inks and grays, but like it takes me a long time to ink, and I do several layers of grays, so that's all very daunting. Anyway, there's a few last resort things I could do. I have my physical computer, my old one, that had died, and that's why I got a new computer, and we could do sort of like, forensic anthropology of silicon things or whatever, and see if I could somehow pull them out of there. But it's also disheartening that I've been putting in hours and hours over the last couple weeks just trying to find files that may or may not exist. So anyway, that's where I am. I put my time into that. I may consult with Tech Advisor Arzuki again. But unless she has other ideas, I'm going to stop working on the horror and switch back to getting that Goldar print just so I could actually do some drawing and actually finish a project to kind of help me emotionally. Like feel like I did something, because right now I feel like I'm reconstructing work I did a while ago and not even doing it well. But that's where we're at right now, Tuesday, late afternoon. 10:30 in the morning on Wednesday. Yesterday, I finally threw in the towel on trying to figure out a way to get these files myself. I asked for help, got help, hit all the same roadblocks. It just seems like a lot of files are missing, just gone. So where we're at is assuming the files were on my old computer, which again is likely but not guaranteed, getting them off there. Now we have a backup of it, but it could be a corrupted backup, it could be whatever. So last night, we took the old computer and tried hooking up peripherals to it, and it wouldn't boot, which was the problem before. It was a thing where it was crashing. It seemed like it was overheating, but it wasn't. And then it just wouldn't start. Like the power would come on, the monitor would come on, but Windows wouldn't boot, whatever. And reinstalling Windows would likely erase or corrupt any files that were on there, so that's not really an option. So we basically took it all apart and pulled out the hard drives. There are 2 big ones and 2 little ones. And the device you saw, that I've been using that. I'm repeating myself. Anyway, last night went through 1 whole hard drive, just getting user data. There's technically more data on there, but it's unlikely that'll be what I need. Went through it this morning, couldn't find anything I needed. I am in the process now of the second big one, which is my hope it's on there because I doubt it's on the little ones. But I started that first thing in the morning, like 7, and it's 10:30 now, and it's about halfway done. So that's going to be most of the day. And then I'll look through that and so on and so forth. If I can't find those files on one of these 4 hard drives, that might be it. I might just be missing a lot of work. And probably other work that I'm unaware of right now, and videos from YouTube updates, uploads, whatever. Lots of stuff from the past, which would be kind of a bummer historically to not have. But this is the thing that I will feel the immediate crunch on and be like, oh, this is going to mess me up a lot right now. So I'm trying not to dwell on that too much because it's pretty depressing. But back your stuff up better than I did, because there were backups, but it was... yeah, I don't know. I guess it got corrupted and then the backup got corrupted, or maybe I somehow accidentally erased all these files, but I don't see how that's possible because the whole folder's not gone, just most of the files that I would need. And the last time I was, other than drawing, some of the panels, the last time I was heavily involved with these files, I made that San Diego Comic-Con preview book up to page 16. And most of those were just penciled, not inked. But I can't even find those files. Like in the San Diego Comic-Con folder, it's like, here's the cover, here's a logo, here's like one JPEG. So again, it seems more like random files have been deleted as opposed to me accidentally erasing some, big folder or whatever. So, I'm very happy. I'm very happy. I'm a mix of happy to the point where I'm almost sad, and I have a knot in the pit of my stomach because I'm like, oh, I think I found the files. I copied the second hard drive to my current computer, and I was having a hard time finding where it went. More issues. And then I was like, oh, okay, here is a folder that says the Horror A4 issue 3. But I've seen this folder before. It has all the same stuff. But let me open up the inside folders, and if they have more files, then that's a good sign. And I opened up an inside folder, and it had more files. And I opened another, and it had more files. Now, I haven't gone through and really checked, but this is the first positive step I've had. And if this didn't work, I was just done. I would have to redo so much work, or be so demoralized that I would quit. But now I'm going to stop. I'm going to take a break because I've been working on this for a while. I know I said I was going to work on Goldar, but I didn't. I worked on this. I'm going to stop, walk away, come back, comb through the files, and see if I actually have everything that I think I have. I don't want to get too excited, but I definitely have more than I did a minute ago. So that's good news. So, good news, great news. Barring any other unforeseen difficulties or files not opening or something, it seems like I have now found everything. And it seems like what happened is my old computer just crapped out. It was crashing and it wouldn't start and whatever. But there was a backup online, a copy of it, which was missing tons of files. The backup didn't work. Maybe it was in the middle of back, but it crashed. Who knows? I don't know why, but it was the worry was that those files were deleted somehow. Did the old, pulling the hard drive and just reading the hard drives, seems to have found all the files that were missing, at least for the Horror A4. There might be other stuff, but this was the thing that I'm looking for right now. So what I'll probably do is take those hard drives, put them in those anti-static bags, put them in a closet somewhere, get rid of the rest of the computer, the full hard drive tower that it's been sitting in my office for months. But I'm ready to actually start getting back to work on the horror now. And there's a couple pages that are fully inked and a few that were kind of worked on. This one, which is page 8. Spoilers, there's a scene of 2 people talking. This one, theoretically, the inks are done and I just need to do grays, but looking at it, I might want to tighten up a few things, which I shouldn't. I should just move forward. But I'm going to allow myself the luxury of redrawing something that I probably redrew 15 times already as a way to jump back into this project. And then depending on how I feel tomorrow or later, I will maybe get back to that Goldar print because I do want to finish that this week. Well, as I think about it, next week is print week, so maybe whatever. I'm allowed to do what I want this week. And I found my horror file, so I'm a happy chappy. All right, goo. Well, that's not the end of the video, but all right, goo for now, for Wednesday. Hey. Oh, sun. It's early. 7:10, I think. Whew. But, why am I trying to talk to you now? What? Oh, God. Light. Why am I trying to make a video right now? Well, I am. Today, it's Thursday, early morning. So, as far as I could tell, I did find all the files I needed for the Horror A4, which is fantastic. And what I found was that up through page 9, the inks were done or at least started. And page 7 was one that I had done about half of, and there's this big scene with like a computer center that I may or may not have to redo because the underlying pencils might be not great in terms of the perspective and things. And then I'm working on page 8 or 9, I forget which it is, but it's the one that was based, that I said was done, it was inked, and I'm just redrawing this one face. And as I was doing it, I was having trouble, and I redrew it like 2 or 3 times, and I changed the expression, and I'm like, oh, is the head too big? And like, just every question you could have about the art I was having as I was redrawing it. And then eventually I'm like, well, I'm just gonna start over and redo it. And as I was doing that, I was like, oh, I've done this before. In fact, there's probably a video, if you go back a while, of me redrawing this panel a ton of times. And I'm like, I've spent so much time on this panel and it's not necessarily getting better. What am I doing? And so I went from like, I have the files, I feel so good. And a lot of the work in those files, as I said before, when I'm looking at the roughs and the pencils, I'm like, wow, that's good. Like I actually, and not in an ego way, but like most of the time I don't like my work. So I'm like, wow, that's good. I can't wait to work on that. I hope I don't mess it up, And then this is like, this is bad and I can't fix it. And I tried and it's still bad. And so it was disheartening. But then I remembered, I'm right back in it because this is what I was working on. At least this thing might not have been the last thing I worked on with the horror, but it definitely was something that I did. So I went from, hey, I've lost my files, to, hey, I have my files, to, this is terrible. I'm terrible. Oh, wait, I was always terrible. This is exactly where I should be. So I think that makes sense. Anyway, that's what I worked on yesterday for a while. Didn't come to completion. I mean, worst case scenario, it is inked and done. I can just leave it as is. But today I will probably try one more pass and then just go on to get the grays done and be done with this page. I decided not to mess with Goldar, at least right now, until I get a little bit of traction on the horror, because next week I realize I won't be able to work on the horror according to my own rules, which I'm going to follow. Anyway, I'm tired and rambling, but that's where we're going. So this episode is not a traditional vloggy. Here's everything going on in my life. I'm carrying the camera everywhere, but I guess at least it's not just one shot, static all the way through. I am doing a little bit update daily. I should try to show some art. Maybe I'll show some art over here while I'm talking about this, hopefully. Anyway, Thursday morning. Bye. All right, so this is the image that I started with, which is passable, usable, but not perfect and not what I wanted. So then working on it, I got it to here, which I think is, parts of it are better, like the mouth, but then I think the eyes are a little worse, and I'm not sure about the expression I had on it. That's where I was yesterday, and then today I reworked it to this. And look, he's drinking, well, I think that's tea. I think the body's a little too big now that the head is smaller, and I need to fix the goatee. Like, more needs to be done. This is still not good. Right now, if I had to pick, I would just go back to that first one, which goes back to the problem of, why am I bothering with this? Right now, this is still the best version, but I believe that this one could become superior if I put a little more work into it and adjust a few things. But I'm definitely not going to let myself work on this panel past today, which I shouldn't even do that. But again, I'm getting back in the swing of things, and part of my horrible, horrible style of working is reworking a million times over and over again without necessarily making it better. So right back in the swing of things. Hooray 4, baby! Friday afternoon now. I spent some time last night, at least an hour, still working on that same panel. Then I look at it with fresh eyes. This morning I'm looking to the left, and I'm like, I remember having trouble with the eye, and that looked weird. And then I look back at the version, like the earlier version that's still new, and I'm like, that one looks better, but off model. And like I've talked about this before, but what I'm struggling with specifically is a couple of factors. Is like I want the character to have a certain expression, but I want it to look like anatomically plausible. My style isn't realistic. It's definitely got a cartoony flair to it, but I want it to look anatomically plausible and consistent with the style of the universe, and I want it to look like the character. And I feel like I keep getting one or two, but not all three. Anyway, as I had mentioned, I remember kind of having a video, and I was thinking, like, I think I did a video when I was working on this a while ago, where literally the thumbnail was like 3 versions of this character, or Boots, I'm not sure. So what I'm gonna do, while I'm talking to you, is scroll through and see if I could find that and see how long ago that was, because I feel like it's going to make me get very, well, I would say depressed, except that I'm back on the horse now, but like, oh my gosh, it's this long, like, I've been living in this new house close to almost a year. And I'm like, have I not worked in the horror the whole time I was here? Which honestly, I'm okay with. I mean, I'm not happy in the grand scheme of the world, but this year has been nuts, and I'm going to give myself a break. But whatever. The point is, I want to see how long ago it's been. Has it been over a year since I even touched this stuff? Let's find out. Well, when did I do San Diego Comic-Con? No, I did San Diego Comic-Con at the old house too. Yeah, so, all right, let's look. All right, so here's my channel, and I'm going to start scrolling back. All right, and I have a lot of Power Ranger stuff on here because I hadn't split the channels yet. And I should go to the Gazbot vlog. Okay, Gazbot vlog. So there's the desk. Okay, that's me working on some. So that's at the new house. Minor update. Talk about going on a hiatus. This is okay. So it looks like over a year since I've at least reported on working on the horror, and then. This looks a lot. That's the page I'm working on right there. That's the panel of the page I'm working on, and that was over a year ago. Let me click that and see see if this is the one. This is fascinating. Look at me go. All right, there I am talking about stuff. Godzilla Fest. All right, let me get some data here. I'm watching a video from January, February, March, April, May, June of last year. And then it has been about a year since I've worked on the horror, or at least talked about it in a video. But in June, I'm talking about this panel and how I was done and have been redrawing it 50 times. So history repeating itself, not learning my lesson, but still not happy with the results. So I don't know. I'm going to fart around with it a little bit more today, and then I got to stop. Oh, that's depressing. Nope, I was wrong. Looks like January, February, March, April is the video. That I was talking about some other one having the same issue that I always have. But look at this. Look at this jamoke over here, and then there's the panel. This is the earlier versions that I was working on, April of last year, and that's a close-up, but that's the same thing. Again, I'm less upset about how long it's been since I've been working on this book and how long it's taken me to get back to it. I am upset about that, but in a general sense. But there is an acute sense of WTF of like, why do I keep having this exact same problem with this panel specifically, but also just, I know this is an issue I have in general, and it's quite frustrating. It's like mental illness. Not to make light of serious mental illness, but there is something wrong in my brain with this drawing this picture that I actually did before, and I'm doing it again. And I spent another hour to 2 hours in the last couple days on this panel, and I was working on my iPad, and I imported it, and I was working on it. And I'm placing the image that I had just shown you that I worked on, that I was like the most happy with. And I by the time I scaled it up and made it fit where it needed to be, like half the work I did didn't even need to be done. And then I was like, well, where does the chair go? Here's the old chair, here's the new chair. I'm farting around with this. And as I'm doing that, I turn off a layer that lets me see the rough. And I'm like, okay, it needs to go there. I kind of, oh, right, I got to have the teacup for the smoke. That's no longer in frame. And I'm like, well, let me just look at how I had done it previous to all this tomfoolery and redrawing, both on the Cintiq and on the iPad and everything else. And so I turned this back on. And while this is not perfect, I think this is better than any of the versions I redrew over the last couple days and the hours I've spent. So I'm going to take the path of least resistance and say, this page is done and inked. And in fact, it was done and inked days ago, before I touched it. It needs to put some grayscales in there, but yeah, like I said, I don't know what's wrong with my brain. And I'm still not happy with it, but it's